Good afternoon or good morning to our West Coast attendees. We welcome you to this special live LinkedIn broadcast in honor of National Civility Month. I'm Lori Sales, CEO of Civility Management Solutions. As a Marine Corps veteran and business owner who's worked across the private and public sectors, I've seen firsthand how the tone from the top shapes the culture of an entire organization. Today's session is about bringing civility back to the workplace, starting with the C-suite. This is not about just being nice. Civility is about clarity, like simplicity and clearness. It's about communication, and it's about courageous leadership. So whether you lead 10 people or 10,000, today is for you. So let's talk about what happens when civility is missing. When leaders tolerate toxicity, like poisonous and harmful language or behavior, and then looks the other way and feel too overwhelmed to confront the dysfunction, here's what the research says. 61% of employees say they left their job due to a toxic work environment. Uncivil behavior leads to 48% lower work effort and 66% lower performance. And yet, most executives still view civility as an HR thing instead of a leadership imperative. But here's the truth. Civility begins in the boardroom, not the break room. And when executives lead with clarity, consistency, and care, the teams will rise. Now let's welcome our two guests, Ms. Tracy Graves-Stevens and Joy Sistrunk. Come on in and hang out with me. Hey!
Hey there, good afternoon.
Hey there, good afternoon. And Miss Joy, I know is joining us shortly as well. So Tracy, I know you very well, but let's take a moment for you to introduce yourself.
All right, well, it's great to meet everyone today. I believe this is a very, very timely topic because I think in some ways, for various reasons, civility is being diluted. It's being diluted in the marketplaces. It's being diluted in our communities in so many ways. And so I know we're going to be hitting upon some of those reasons as we move forward in this discussion. But my name is Tracy Graves-Stevens, and I am an executive advisor and a leadership coach. I have many, many, I want to say decades of experience in strategic operations, alignment, and risk mitigation in both the government and the commercial industries. Started in IT, and so learned a lot about civility early on in my career. Currently, I'm the founder and the chief alignment officer of Trusted Beacon LLC. Trusted Beacon provides advisory solutions to just help companies align their corporate operations with their business strategy. I'm also a chief experience officer within an organization called CEO Experience. CEO Experience partners with business owners and leaders to really elevate their ethical impact in the marketplace, and primarily through biblical business principles. And I'm also a marketplace chaplain, I'm a minister, and I'm an author of 2 books. So again, it's great to meet everyone, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Outstanding. Thank you, Tracy. Miss Joy, also Miss Washington Business Journal, Best Place to Work, but we'll be talking about that. And to be announced soon, my teaming partner of Civility Management Solutions. But please, Joy, would you introduce yourself? I don't see her now. I hope she knows that we don't see her and we can't hear her. But we'll let her jump back in. So let's talk about this. Civility in the workplace. I am ready, Tracy, to get into it. So what does civility mean to you as a leader?
Civility is one of these, it is a behavior that sets the foundation and the atmosphere, to me, that can even drive the success or failure of a company. I think resilient companies sometimes will be able to push through in uncivil and civil, cultures, but civil cultures
Mm,
just set the stage so much for just doing the right things and extracting creativity from all of the team members, not just the leaders, but all of the team members and all of the parts of the organization. And it's really one of those first things we learned when we were little. The golden rule is, treating others as you would want to be
mm.
treated, and it is just it's as applicable in the business environment, even as it is in your personal lives.
Yes, indeed. I mean, you said it right there. Treat everyone as you want to be treated. This is
Mhm.
really simple to me. And let me even before Joy jumps in and introducing herself and also telling us what civility means to her as a leader. Civility management solutions became civility management solutions because someone told me about the word civility, and I researched it with thesauruses, good old fashioned way. And I just began to write down the things that mattered to me because one of my issues when I was a corporate program manager was the attitude of some of the people that reported to me. I literally clearly didn't understand. I'm like, do they not know that I'm part of their increase? Don't they know that I'm the one that, can help their lives out as opposed to whoever else they were depending upon? That they reported to on their job. It's like I'm the supervisor. I may not be in there with you every day, but I am. And someone gave me the word civility, and I researched and I said that's perfect. That is, matter of fact, that is a perfect for me because it did get into people being respectful, people practicing restraint. Right? You can't just say everything out your mouth, especially in the workforce, and being held responsible for their actions. All of those things were really, 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 really big, big deals. And so civility management solutions came about. So let's go on. Um, Joy is there. All right, Joy, I'm you, and let's get it going. I tell you, we love technology.
Yes, we do, but sometimes it is a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yes,
But we're
Indeed, indeed.
fortunate to be
right.
in this environment. So thank you
Yeah.
for having me. I appreciate you.
So go ahead and
Sure.
introduce yourself. I already talked about you being Miss Business,
Oh,
best place to work and stuff. So tell us
yeah.
about who you are so we can get into these questions.
Sure. So I'm Joyce Trunk of Premier Group. We're a CPA firm in the Washington, D.C. area. We have been named as one of the Forbes top 200 CPAs, as well as recently, yesterday, in fact, we were on the Inc. 5000 list for the second time. So we're really excited about that, as well as one of the Washington Post best places to work in. So we do everything accounting, auditing, taxes related to nonprofits, government contractors, and then other sundry businesses. So thank you for having me to talk about this very important topic.
Destiny, thank you for being here. You were the perfect pick for me. I was excited about that when he showed me your name. I'm like, yes, and more yes. All
Thank you.
right. So tell me now, what does civility mean to you as a leader?
So, civility means to me as a leader the ability to have honest and transparent conversations with people,
Mm,
even when they're difficult, because we're not going to agree. As we can see, everybody has an opinion, which is great. And it helps us to see our blind spots, but respecting people at the same time and not disregarding them just simply because they don't agree with us, and making sure that we still are able to kind of preserve the relationships and make sure that people are seen and heard, because every opinion, even if we don't agree in the moment, is still valuable. And so we need to make sure that people understand that. So for me, that is very important. And as we're building our team, that's one of the things that we always try to maintain.
outstanding. And I love the diversity of your office. It is just so wonderful to see them all working well together on top of
Yes.
that. All right, Kel, this is another question. Can you recall a moment, either where civility or lack of it changed the course of a team or project?
I definitely can. At one time, we had a manager who was let's, for the lack of a better word, we'll call him a dictator. And what we saw was his team, they were able to produce, but it was very authoritarian. They were scared to speak up. They couldn't really make a decision. They had to run everything by him. And so as a result, we didn't have innovation, we didn't have clarity, we didn't have people really being their best selves. And once that person left, the team blossomed because these are the same people. So it was in them all the time, but we just weren't taking the time to see it. And so it can definitely it can be to the detriment of your team if you are not being civil and you're not respecting what other people bring to the table.
Outstanding. By the way, did you lose anybody before he left?
A couple people, but since then, we have, thank you God, we knock on wood, we have not, and I am hopeful that it stays that way.
I'm sure, because that one person can be that was the toxicity of their environment.
Exactly.
Tracy, I know you have one as well. You've been working for a while. I ain't gonna tell your age. I know you know.
Well, it's interesting because I have probably many in corporate leadership, and they're very similar to exactly what Joy just mentioned. I actually harken back to the one that probably says stuck with me over my entire career, which actually created the foundation of what kind of leader I was going to be as I started to take on progressive leadership, just like what kind of company am I going to create and what kind of a leadership team am I going to have and what kind of person I'm going to be. And that is the folk that's in the room that think they're smarter than everyone. Not invented here syndrome is what it was called when I was coming along. And my beginnings of my career was in software engineering. And software engineering requires collaboration throughout the entire process. So if you ever have someone in the room that's not willing to receive new ideas and new ways of doing things, it stifles the whole creativity process. And so one of the things that I saw many times with that, and even in companies that I've seen, I've advised and been a part of that weren't flexible and civil, is it can create errors. And to some extent, it can create errors that, especially in technology, that might lead to either something disastrous happening or a tragedy or just you not meeting your goals. And there's a whole, response to that. If you're an organization, it impacts your reputation, just so many things, and the joy on your team. No pun intended, joy, but even just the people's trust and happiness on the team as well.
Okay, so give us some advice. What advice would you give a fellow CEO or manager, leader that's trying to repair or reinforce the workplace culture? And let's be honest, in today's world of 2025, being in, someone that doesn't practice civility is becoming the norm or accepted behavior. So speak from that level, because some people are and have been dealing with it for a while, and for some it's brand new. So let's talk about that. How to repair or reinforce the workplace culture. Any advice?
All right. Well, I can go. And I think repair is a big word because repair means you have to recognize that something happened and we need to fix it. So I think that every leader, and you don't have to be the one that's running things, because everybody's a leader if they're working in a team, has to be willing to apologize, admit we need to make some changes and do some things differently. I think if you're a person that's leading the organization or the team or the project, having the courage to put some rules in place, hold people accountable. I always have a rule whenever every meeting, anyone that's ever been in a meeting that I've been in, I set the rules of engagement and I hold people accountable to the rules of engagement, which is, respecting other opinions. Nobody's opinion is better than others. All of those things. I think also don't assume people know what your expectations are. So when you do that, then because if you don't share, then you get mad because you don't want you're looking at them like, why don't they understand where I'm trying to go here? And so you've got to be clear in how you communicate, but then also be open to receiving other people's inputs. And I use this acronym as well. It's called WAIT, WAIT. Whenever I am in a engaging kind of a situation with others, WAIT means why am I talking? because every person has to.
Hold on. I need everybody. Hold on. I need
I'm gonna write that
everybody.
down. Wait, why am I talking?
Why am I talking? Because we can talk, and I'm a talker, but there are times in civil engagements where you need to be listening, and so really learn to develop some active listening skills. Especially I think as leaders and in all of, in our professions, we bring all of our bravado to the table, but I even have a sticker. It's on my computer, and it's wait, why am I talking? Just check yourself.
Love it. Write that down, people. Write that down. I know you all needed that information. All
I
right,
wrote
Miss
it
Joy,
down.
talk to me.
I wrote it down because why am I talking? I mean, I had to write that down, but that's good. I mean, I think she's right. To repair, we have to be, again, honest and then admit fault. This is not just a cursory one of those emails where you say you're going to do it, but it is admit fault and then allow people to really speak. And you may have to push them because at a point, if they have been kind of disenfranchised for so long, they're not going to trust that they're not just going to wake up the next day and say, oh, you apologize, let me move forward. You're going to kind of have to push people out of their bubble and make them comfortable enough to believe that, yes, we can do this and there is not going to be any repercussions. And that's more than words. I think what Tracy said is important is actions. You have to put your actions behind it, and you constantly have to be putting them in situations and sometimes even pushing them because they're not going to be comfortable now telling you the truth. Put them in the
Yes.
situations to say, hey, I really want you to be honest. I don't want you just to tell me what you think I want to hear, because I think that's what a lot of people do now. We've gotten so comfortable, they're scared to express themselves. Put them in the situation, say, hey, what could I have done differently?
So
And then just
good.
wait. Again, why am I talking? Pause, be silent, and let them, and sit there and until they can give you something, because everybody has something. And so if repair, and to a point, if it's not possible to repair, then I think you have to look at the organization overall and say, okay, what other changes do I have to make? And that might mean that you may have to lose some of the people who may be good technicians but aren't civil and aren't good for the culture of your environment. That's a very, very last step, but it may come to that in certain instances.
I love it. I love it. Both of those is powerful. I'm gonna go off that reinforced side, because especially as women, right? I say what I mean and I mean what I say.
Yeah.
And I'm consistent about that, right? I make decisions, and if I change anything, I notify people about what I'm doing, about the change, and why I'm changing it. Because we already have a reputation. Oh, you can't figure out what I don't have no problem with that. When I make a decision, I make a decision. If it changes, it's because of something I've learned, right? So I think we really should do, as women, we should do better in that area of really speaking our truth and standing on it. And it's not anything about being cocky. It's just that you do have a voice. Just like you said, Joy, we have a voice, and everybody should want to hear each other's voice. And if you don't want to do that, then, you're putting yourself in a toxic environment without even realizing.
Absolutely.
Okay. So when the civility gap exists, the ripple effect hits. Turnover rises. We talked about that already with your story, right, Joy? Innovation stalls. We talked about that, I think, as well with you, Joy, and Tracy. Your reputation, Tracy, you definitely hit that. Internally and externally will suffer. So the question isn't if it's costing your company, it's how much.
Yeah.
So Tracy and Joy, any additional thoughts on that?
Just I think from a bottom line, we hit all the key points, because you don't realize that innovation, that stall, the people are now sicker. So people are now taking more sick time and PTO because now they need mental health days. When you have a good culture, people want to come to work. and they want to do more. They don't want to just do the bare minimum. They are excited to do more. So they are telling you, hey, I have this idea and I think this could make us more money. And so I think we're not tapping into those resources. Instead of just thinking we need to kind of hire all the time and spend more money, we need to tap into our existing resources and make sure we're utilizing it properly. So all of this impacts our bottom lines and it hurts you as the business owner and causes you to be less profitable, which none of us wants to be.
Indeed,
That's
indeed.
it, yes. What you got, Tracy?
And you hit on something too, and it's one of the things that as a marketplace chaplain that I learn and I'm talking to people and I'm talking to leaders is that when people feel unheard or unseen, it rolls into stress and then it rolls into taking, I need some time off, I need some, time to recoup. And, civility, when you think of it, it's a boundary. It's kind of this tipping point between a person feeling like they matter and dehumanizing, them, so
Mm,
it really is that tipping point. If you're not listening to people, if you're not valuing their contributions, if they're trying to, you may be missing the next great, idea out there. If people don't feel like they're collaborative with the team, then they kind of they feel small and it rolls into so many other things. And so you want to create an environment where people feel like they are a part of something, that they can get excited about it as well, because it will cost you. It will cost you either in quality, like I said, it could cost you in revenue if you're
mhm.
missing deadlines or you're not able to hire because there's just a small community of people that talk about companies. And it really costs, I think the greatest thing is the collaboration that we all can and should have with each other. And I just want to add one thing, Lori. As leaders, we need to be very careful that we're sensitive to the power balance that we bring into the room and not
Ooh,
try to force civility. Now, there
Mhm.
are times where, you got to say, hey, we got to get this thing done. But I always think in terms of the language we use, maybe using language that says, um, I would like to see if we can get to these outcomes versus we should try to get to these outcomes, because then it opens up other people saying, well, that's a great idea. Why don't let me, this is an idea I have in getting to that outcome. So creating this collaborative environment makes for great teams and great companies.
I love it. We just this week, well, first of all, we celebrate 13 years on the 8th of
Thanks.
August.
Congratulations. Yes.
Thank you. And both of you just said something that triggered me to share this. We also celebrated in the office, a couple of people having 9 years in, one person 5 years, and the other person 3 years. And so when we looked around and said, well, who has been here the less? And I think, no one's been here less than a year and a half. And so it is really, really great that I see what the impact of me having civility in my leadership has made a difference for the team. And they're all empowered to do their jobs. I kind of work for them in some days, right? Right, Joe, you know that.
Absolutely. Yes, I do.
If your team is powerful enough, they
They
tell me
are.
what to do.
They
And
do.
so, and I love that because it's all in from everybody of the mission and the goals that we have to get accomplished here at the company. All righty. So civility doesn't have to be that way, right? I mean, the losses and the turnovers, it doesn't have to be that way. So civility is a learned leadership skill. I never would say that, but trust me, I know. I know because as I started, I served in the United States Marine Corps. Let's be clear. It was not civil in our means of communication and leadership. And as a Black woman that was serving in that uniform, I had to turn it up a notch or two, probably way too many times. You know what I'm saying? But I have learned how to be civil and lead with success. And I think I'm even getting better results. But that's how and why we developed the Executive Civility Toolkit. It's a practical guide for leaders who want to raise their standards without lowering morale. So we have several free tools for the C-suite leadership to bring civility into their workplaces. Yes, I said free. But as a preview, here are some of my favorites, and they will be provided in the chat. You should be able to see them there. The Executive Civility Scorecard. Presidents, CEOs, including other leaders, Here is where we put the mirror up in our faces, right? And look at where we are on the civility meter, where we are as individuals, as leading. Scorecard tracks executive behavior against key civility benchmarks: accountability, empathy, communication. Score your C-suite and then address the results. The second one, the Pulse survey template. It's a quick anonymous employee survey designed to measure perceptions of the workplace civility, leadership conduct, and the team dynamics in the office. It's ideal for regular check-ins as well. And then speaking of Pulse surveys, participate in our National Civility 2025 survey, and you can scan the QR code that's on the screen. And last but not least, the civility audit checklist. This is an audit for diagnostic. It is an audit that is a diagnostic tool to assess how well organizational policies, practices, and leadership behaviors reflect a culture of respect, inclusion, and psychological safety. So these tools are designed to help you measure what matters and lead with impact, because culture isn't an HR thing, it's strategy. So if today's conversation resonated with you, if you're ready to go deeper, I'm personally inviting you to our September CEO Roundtable, Civility Behind Closed Doors. This is going to be private. It's a paid event. It's limited to a small group of C-suite leaders, no panels, no run around, no shucking and jiving. It's going to be real courageous conversations with some best practices and leadership growth discussions. And that link is also should be in the chat for you all if you want to snatch it now. And so now we want to take some questions from the audience. We may be able to get through all of them right now, but we will address them through the LinkedIn comments later, should there be any that doesn't get approached today. So let's go with the questions.
When you think about the word civility, it's interesting. We really don't use it a lot now. The one thought that came to mind, just listening to all the input and just even our experiences that we bring, is that we shouldn't look at it like it's just good manners. It is, that golden rule is good manners, but real civility, when it's being used and intentional in place and it's authentic and it's genuine, should be something that's a part of just our makeup, the behavior we bring to the table. And like you said, it's a learned behavior. It's not something that we're going to just wake up and say, this is how it's done. You really have to learn. And I think it was Joy, or maybe you said this, Lori, is that civility is not softness either. It takes strength and courage to hold your peace when you might really want to go in a different direction. And so it takes wisdom, and it takes something that's deeper inside of you to enter situations and to keep them civil. And really, it's your responsibility to self-regulate, to try to diffuse and keep, certain situations from getting to the next level or to this point of conflict as well. So keep that in mind.
Good.
No, that was I was going to say, I actually agree with that, because I think, like you said, it's not, Lori definitely said that it's not softness. But I think what has happened is our society overall, maybe with the microwave kind of society, immediate response, if somebody says something to you, instead of pondering and thinking about it and reflecting on the best response, we have to be responding quickly. And so we haven't, as a society, we've kind of moved away from being civil, but that is what actually helps us to grow and be better and actually talk through our differences and figure out a path forward instead of just fighting and staying separate in our own corners. Civility helps to bring us together. And I think that's where we've kind of lost.
Yeah.
I love that, because inside of this office, everybody's empowered to have grown folks conversations. I'm like, don't call on me because you have a difference with somebody. You're an adult. Go in there and have a conversation. Sit down, talk it through, and come to a decision of what's the best way to go from that discussion. I think that they're ready with the questions, and if they are, I'm going to settle down and I can get started. I do have one that was been thrown over to me. The economy, the market, there are higher priorities that we need to focus on as a company. We need results. Is civility really that important?
Yes and yes.
Yes, and yes.
Because yes, and even more yeses. Because
Okay.
if you have, think of it this way, you can't get anything done with the economy, and so you can submit all the proposals you want, but if your team can't perform because they can't get along with each other, then you still have you're not really going in you're going in the wrong direction. But if your team gets along, when things are coming your way, when opportunities come, people are jumping on it, and it's no longer just on you as the CEO. You have a whole bunch of sales representatives out there who love you and love the company and love the mission. And because you were civil, you're not doing it. It doesn't feel as lonely as it does when it's just you by yourself trying to row this really big boat and get to this goal.
And
Joy,
I just,
Joy, thank you for that. And Tracy, did you have something?
yeah,
before
I
we
was
go?
just going to say, and it's free. It's, I think the cost of not being civil is
Ah,
going to cost you more. And if you think about the legacy that you're going to leave, being civil is a better reputation to carry forward, even beyond the walls of your organization and your company.
I love you for that. It's free. Come
Hmm.
on, we're free. Come on, Joy, Miss Finance, CPA.
Free.
Free.
Free is free. We love
Free
free. And it didn't
99.
cost you, it just cost you being nice to people and
Just
listening.
be
And so
nice.
all these other things that you're trying to invest in the economy, everything else costs. This didn't cost you anything.
Mhm.
But some time and listening to people and not just faking it, but really getting into it to make sure that your company is thriving and surviving. So I love
And
that.
I sleep good at night too, being civil. I promise you. When I hit that pillow, it's a wrap. So I think they're ready. Are we still having technical problems? Because someone
No,
just
we have a question. I
there we
would
go.
like to consider myself a leader that leads with civility, but sometimes I hear whispers from staff that my other C-suite members are not. But they are good at what they do, so they're beneficial to the success of the company. How do I address that?
Woo.
No, I that's actually one
Really
Hello.
good question. That's a
That's
great
a
It
question.
really
is.
good
We
question.
we all face that. I think we
Mhm.
all face it where not everybody in here got the memo about what civility means. But I think it's even more important.
Mm.
That is where it's more important for you being the one that models what it means. I have been in too many meetings where people have felt it was okay to be disrespectful, and you still have a responsibility to hold your peace, but you also have the responsibility to, I don't want to say fake it till you make it, meaning there are times where you have to, when you're rolling around inside, where you have to demonstrate civility, but also be firm in the expectation of how not only you want to be treated, but how you want others in the room to be treated
Yes.
well. And that's just, it's almost like demanding civility, demanding respect for all that are there. And you have, I've stopped a meeting because if someone just decided that's not what they were going to do, well, okay, I think this conversation is over.
Mhm.
I love that. And I would say if you are the one who is being civil and you're hearing rumblings, where there's smoke, there's fire. And so what that means is there are a bunch of unhappy people who might be looking for jobs, who may not be giving their best. So you can make yourself an advocate or a safe space to say to them, hey, come and tell me what happened. And then you can kind of be the person that brokers the peace, still talks to your partners to make sure that they understand the impact, because a lot of times I think some people honestly are just not going to change, but some people also don't understand the impact of their words, or it could be a function of how they grew up. You don't know what's rolling around in people's mind, and we don't know people's history, so all we can do is call it out, make sure they understand, so then that they see it. And then there may also be some things that need to happen, such as trainings. I mean, our company, we do quarterly trainings on different things to
I
help make
love it.
sure that our culture is staying civil. Because honestly, almost at the heart of everything is violated expectations, or someone used the wrong words, or you said this to me when really they didn't mean it. So it's really about that communication piece is big, and it doesn't matter how long you've been together. It's all, there will always be something that you're kind of working on. So I don't think there's anything wrong with you becoming that advocate for your team, because you're trying to better the company at the end of the day.
I'm a natural at that. Before I ever joined the United States Marine Corps, I was the one that kind of always made sure everybody was good, and sometimes it was just clearly just settling things down based off of what's going on. So somebody's got to take charge of the environment. It would be my input on that, and it's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy, because it's not. Because people come up with a whole bunch of things of what they would, well, how they see you after that, because they got offended. That's another thing. Let me just throw that out there. Being offended is terrible for who? You.
Yeah.
If you are a person that finds yourself offended at everything, and somebody said, and I saw her look me, he did that, stop it. Fix that for yourself, because you can go back to that. It's 2 years later. Well, you offended me, and I have a problem. And they're looking at you like, what you talking about? They don't even, most cases, not know that you have gotten offended. And so you have been walking around being, not your best self. Because so try to fix that for yourself. Any more questions?
Yes, we do have another question. In a country where incivility is seemingly the standard, and that's incivility, not civility, is seemingly the standard of operations, how do I survive the space that we're currently living in?
I think you still have to be your still authentic self. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. You still need to be you. You don't change who you are because of what they're doing. Because eventually there will come a situation where they're going to need you, and they're going to need to reach out to you, and they're going to say, you know what, I remember that you were, when I was acting a mess, you weren't right there. You weren't meeting my energy, or you weren't matching my energy, as the kids say. You kept it civil, and you still were your best self regardless. So I think you still have to be true and authentic to who you are, and not get caught up in what other people are necessarily doing. If that's what they're trying to do, it's nothing wrong with, I think Tracy said, there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I don't think we're in the right space to have that conversation right now, and walking away. You don't have to stand there and argue and be someone's, you don't have to get beat up. You can end the conversation, but still be civil.
With a smile on your face, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not feeling this right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get back to each other on it, because we it's not a good time. You're smiling. I'm just a smiling, but I'm walking away. Go ahead. What you got on?
No, I was going to say, one aspect of your peace and your joy is knowing what your boundaries are, and expecting people to respect them. I almost feel like, take the word civility and plug respect in, plug compassion in, plug empathy in. If people were coming in the room and not being respectful to you, what would you do? And it's not even meant, sometimes you don't have to do anything. I think that the strength that everyone has, that's their superpower, is just sitting there and watching folks to do what they do, and sometimes just be still and wait for your opportunity. Then you insert the wisdom and the light that needs to be shown in that situation. I find that in families. If you've ever had, look, civility is not just in the workplace, it's even in the people you engage with at a personal level as well. And sometimes you have to kind of let some things happen, and then you look for the opportunity to model and provide another perspective as well.
So AC, I got to bring up something. Just yesterday, you threw a new word out to us when we were chatting, and it's not like take a break, but it's a point of pausing. You're giving yourself a moment to pause through what you're feeling. That when you open your mouth, or when you're driving, when you raise your hand off that steering wheel, what might just pause for a moment. So what do you say that is? What's the new
It's
term?
take a beat. So I know the younger generation, I would say, my daughter says it to me all the time, Mom, take a beat. And that is take a pause. And I even think sometimes in a world like this, just related to the question that was asked, I actually advise people to have a what I call a conflict resolution plan. So if you think you're going to get impatient behind the wheel while you are driving, you sit behind that wheel before you even put the key in and take off and say, if this work happens, I'm going to be prepared to do blank, blank, and blank. Because even in companies, you know, the people that sometimes tend to come into a meeting and want to be disruptive. So be prepared with your conflict resolution plan to try to tamper it before it even becomes a thing. That's why I do my rules of engagement. But if you can't do anything, make sure you take a beat so you don't say something that you can't take back as well.
And what you just said reminded me of meditation, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do some meditation on the real problems, and that way it will help you when it's time for you to get your response. And there's a scripture that I live by too that I keep around in my head. It used to be on a post-it, be angry, sin not,
Ah,
right? And it helps me. I promise you, it
mhm.
helps me get through those moments. Any more questions? Any questions from the audience?
I don't see any questions from the audience, but I will open the floor up to the panelists to share any additional thoughts surrounding civility in the workplace.
All right, ladies.
So
I
I would,
just,
oh,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Tracy. You always have good thoughts, and you always
Oh,
give
no.
me good things to think about.
What I would just say is it's never too late to start.
Mm,
It's never too late to start. You know, this panels like this are, I don't recall ever sitting in too many of them throughout my career. Um, so not everybody comes to the table with the same understanding that you have. So don't be afraid to start inserting those, cultural awareness, mile markers within your organization, within your team. It starts with you. At some point, people will get the memo. I love what Joy said is they offer, a training, periodic training so you can understand this is our culture and this is how we operate. And it is one that's a culture of respect and empathy and compassion and creativity and all the things that are a part of that. And you reiterate that every year. Um,
mm,
and be the kind of company, team, employee, leader, family member that you want, how you want people to treat you. Be that person to other people as well. Don't be afraid to promote civility as a value. Um,
mm.
and let it lead. I mean, we're sitting here with civility management solutions, and
Hmm.
one of the aspects of how they operate is putting civility and excellence forward. Is so that's what you have, how you have to come if you're going to do business with civility as well.
Excellent, excellent
And I
feedback.
would just say be intentional about how you inject civility into your culture. Make sure that it is permeating throughout. If you don't see it, don't be afraid to hold people accountable when you don't see it. And that kind of goes back to the question that we had, as well as make sure that you're defining. I think we said it, we touched on it. Define what, not just what civility is, but when there's conflict, define what the actual issue is, because a lot of times people may be saying, using different words, and they may be having two completely different conversations, which is leading to that discontent and that confusion. So just make sure that you're using your definitions and being clear about what's happening. But we could all, I think what we see in today's world is we could all use a little bit more civility in our business and our personal lives.
Indeed.
That's it.
Indeed.
And I love it that you said business and our personal life.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you all for showing up today, and not just with your time, but with your intentions. As Joy just said, you've already taken the first step toward making civility your competitive advantage. The replay is going to live right here on LinkedIn, and you can visit Civility MS website to find more tools, information, and resources for civility in the workplace. and more insight on the National Civility Month 2025. That should also now be in the chat. And so, Tracy and Joy, I don't know if you have any parting words, but I can say this. I love both of these women independently for different reasons. Tracy has been there with me and coached me through many, many things, good, bad, and indifferent. And so I know she is excellent at what she does. And Joy and I have been connected. We're both veterans that served in the military. And with that, we've joined forces, and now our companies are working diligently, regularly to try to win opportunities together. And we got one that's getting real close, ain't it, Joy?
Super close,
Look
very
at
close.
here. We might be getting that award before this month is over. So we're looking forward to continue to work together, bringing our teams together so we can be a reflection of what it is really like for us to work together, do great work, as well as operate in civility. So
I just want to say thank you for starting this conversation and for having me and Tracy on, because like she said, there's not too many people having these conversations. And I know culture and, other words have become taboo, but this is what we need as business owners. These are the things that are going to separate you from your competition. So it is very important, but thank you and the civility team for having me.
Indeed. And I just want to add on, I thank you. And this is an ongoing process. Always remember that every great revolution started with one step. So you be the change that's needed in your organizations and your companies and your families as well.
Okay, and with that, let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on LinkedIn if we aren't already connected, and connect with the lovely panelists that you see here, Joy and Tracy. And I also want to give a great big thank you to both of you and my team, Cheryl and her team of civility. They actually did this doggone thing, as well as our preferred vendor, CT Solutions. You should also be able to see something listed over there in the chat. Because if you like what you saw today, it can only get better for you. So again, to the audience, thank you for joining me today as we continue to encourage everyone to lead with civility. And I hope to see you at the CEO Roundtable in September.